In the 75th century, there is one man who shows a glimpse of the harsh realities of multiversal warfare involving Trevleock. Paul Hind, often referred to as Commander Hyde, records video logs describing his missions, weapons, and experiences in the galactic warfare, and beams this footage back to the present day for us to pick apart and understand. Trevleock seems to be everywhere in the 75th century. It's not quite known what Trevleock is, but it seems to come in different variants, all with differing destructive capabilities. Simply touching the worser variants of Trevleock is enough to burn and melt you entirely. Paul alerts us to this Trevleock substance and its role in the intergalactic warfare. But currently, our source of knowledge of the 75th century is limited. Paul is our only source, after all, but the information he presents us is important, as it shows a glimpse of the sector 7434643//.B2B and what is being done to combat the incoming threats of the Kandoue units. Join us in this video where we will explore the weapons of the 75th century that Mr. Hind has currently shown us, and what he has used to defeat various alien forces and rid the world of this Trevleock infestation. And we'll do this in the form of a popular 21st century trend, the tier list. One of the big questions is, who are the enemies of this universe? Well, the Kandoue, the main villain of the series. They seem to be some sort of robotic life that has the ability to shapeshift into metal bins. I can't say this line without laughing. That has the ability to shapeshift into metal bins.
The Kandoue can only shapeshift into metal bins. So this is a Kandoue unit. It's there, it's a Kandoue unit. It's not active because I've deactivated the chip because I know it's a Kandoue unit, I want to be safe.
We're not entirely sure whether they can shapeshift into anything else, but you can see that they clearly use stealth as part of their tactics. The most prominent weapon shown in this series of video logs is the 646464/.B. To the keen eye, it might seem familiar and look very similar to the X-Shot Stealth Soaker. But do not be ridiculous. It's unclear whether this is just a coincidence, or whether the company that produced these water guns are operated by some form of Kandoue intelligence officers, in order to trick the 21st century world into some form of psychological warfare, making them appear like a childlike toy. Do not be fooled. The weapon Paul has shown clearly has been through some usage on the battlefield with his extensive battlefield footage. The standard model is filled with fuel cells which come into this device.
This happens to be the fuel cells that are used for this particle beam, spectrum beam laser X46464 X4 cross 646464 X466 AA-66 4646464966.
It is unclear whether this is Trevleock, or whether this is some form of fuel derived from Trevleock, but it is purple in appearance. It also must be stored in a completely empty, unlabeled Radox bottle. Since the weapon is modular in device, we have various video logs from Paul showing the differing configurations of the 646464/.B. I've pulled out each individual attachment, shown off, to create the ultimate 75th century tier list. The first part of Commander Hyde's video logs show off this disc. It makes a prevalent appearance throughout the video logs and seems to have multiple functions. The first example is the so-called Solare protector.
We needed this attachment. There was an increased rate of Fluxemeoka in the atmosphere.
It's specifically used in parts of the universe with a high concentration of Fluxemeoka. Now, Fluxemeoka is one of the most deadliest drugs in high demand and concentration.
This is Fluxemeoka.
It's shaped like a Trebor mint, but do not get it confused. Paul has said that one sample of this drug given to the planet's population can render them completely insane.
I have actually known former Warcraft commanders who have become addicted to Fluxemeoka and have ended up in psychiatric units. I've known there's been a lot that I have known.
Requiring psychiatric treatment. It's only mentioned once in these video logs, so despite its efficacy on these planets, it must not be as prevalent in the universe, which is probably a good thing for humanity. This will be going in C tier. The second configuration is the Kandoue Tracking unit. It's first seen in a video where Paul is maintaining one of the previous Trevleock detectors around Wales. He shows it in its searching functionality.
I have the 646464/.B because we have reports of Kandoue units in this area. And of course this device is useless against Kandoue units, but the reason I have it is because it has the Kandoue tracking device on the front.
Despite this 646464/.b being useless against the Kandoue units, Paul is clearly prepared to search for these threats using this device attachment. Since this is just simply a tracking unit, I'll have to mark this one as C tier. The Kandoue are very important in this series, and making sure you're very well aware of when they're nearby, in their multiple forms such as metal bins. The next attachment Paul shows on his warp ship is the hologram unit. As he's shown, it's clearly had some damage and wear and tear, but like he says, it's been through plenty of abuse and it can handle much more.
You're probably thinking that's my reflection from my camera when I'm recording this video. That is actually a hologram that is behind me, protecting me at the moment, because there are high levels of Trevleock in this atmosphere, the system I'm in. So behind me is a hologram, and that hologram emits a beam, and that beam protects me against the high levels of Trevleock.
It projects a hologram beam, and this protects him from areas with high levels of Trevleock. Now, I wish I could tell you more about this device, but as Paul says in the video, this information is classified. This seems quite useful, but again, it does not defeat the Kandoue units, and so I must put it in the D tier. Our next tactical attachment is the light. It's used on planets with no sun, also known as rogue planets. According to Commander Hyde, it can light up the whole planet as if it is a sun.
We need this light attachment on this device. It basically enables us to see where we are going. I mean, this will shine full capacity for about 650,000 miles, the beam it will give off, this light attachment. And this, when you have enough of these together, this creates, it's just like being in daylight. When it is dark, it's just creating daylight on the planets we go to.
How it doesn't quite blind the user is a sheer testament to the science innovations we've made in the future. Paul says it will shine at full capacity for 650,000 miles. It uses the fuel already inside the gun, and it will last for 500,000 years. Clearly, this light attachment is incredibly useful. In our current 21st century knowledge, we don't know how many rogue planets there are, but assuming there is quite a lot, this light attachment does come in handy. The light attachment is B tier. Then we have the scope. Now, as you can see, it's mounted on the side, and I'll let Paul explain why.
You're probably wondering why it being a scope, it isn't on the top. You would expect the scope to be on the top. Well, this being a laser device, it's something to do with the beam of the laser. It affects something to do with the scope.
Interesting information. Clearly this is some sort of zooming in apparatus, not too dissimilar from what we use nowadays in modern day warfare. Now, this specific scope attachment, well, we've been using this for ages, but it's still useful in the 75th century. This will be marked as a C tier on the list. At the bottom of his device, you can also see the disc attachment is back. According to Paul, this is the repelling device.
But this on here is a reflective disc. What this is for, this is because the Kandoue unit's tracking beam, when it is fired towards us, obviously they track our position where we are, this repels their beam back to them. If their tracking beam is directed back towards them, it will destroy them. So that is what this is. Yeah, this is just a device to repel the tracking beam from the Kandoue units.
Now, if the Kandoue unit's tracking beam is reflected back at them using this disc, it seems to destroy them. Well, this seems like it's one of the only possible ways to destroy the Kandoue units. I will have to mark this one as a B tier due to its sheer immense power. Lastly, in the tactical attachments section, we have the display unit. According to Paul, it shows various things such as great information.
Particle beam weapon, laser beam, spectrum beam weapon. Displays great information. So, you know, all the information is displayed in battle. All the information is displayed, such as ammunition, kills, complicated information that I really don't understand.
Also appearing on this device is complicated information that he doesn't quite understand. It does make you wonder that in the 75th century, whether these alien populations have contributed and we are not able to use these devices. Just a bit of food for thought. The display unit is a C tier. Now we move on to the important section. In one of these video logs, Paul shows off the revolver device. Now the purpose of this device is it seems to be a more sort of modified skin of the 646464/.b. According to Paul, the reason for this design is so that it doesn't spook Native Americans on extraterrestrial planets.
We did actually go onto one planet at one point, but I can't fully recall when it was now. And we did use this device instead of the 6464/846/. 4.4.4.4.4/.9b1. And the reason we use this device, the population of the planet thought they were Native American Indians. So we thought instead of taking a weapon device, we would use this. And as you can see, this resembles a revolver from the late 19th, early 20th century. Of course, it's a different colour, but it does resemble a revolver of that era.
It's clear by Paul's accounts that in the 75th century, Native Americans have spread and are now a spacefaring colony. Apparently, this mimics the shape and design of a regular revolver from the 1900s, and the Native American population seem to enjoy this. It shows that in the 75th century, we still care for the native populations on planet. And clearly, if a whole design has been built around this Native American population, their presence must be quite large and expansive in the 75th century. Therefore, I'll have to mark this revolver as the B tier. Another important device that Paul demonstrates on the battlefield is the use of psychological warfare. So far, Paul has shown off 3 different images that are attached onto the weapons. The first image he shows is himself, back in the good old days. This image will apparently spook the enemy forces, forcing them to retreat, and Paul states that this lowers the amount of fuel that they have to use. If we can indulge in less casualties, that's a good thing for the whole planet. He also implores the usage of this image, which seems to be a picture of the Welsh singer Cilla Black. I'm not entirely sure what this one's used for, but as Paul says, it saves on fuel cells.
And this image used to help us save fuel cells because we didn't need to use the 646464646. This image was enough to conquer galaxies. We used to just walk around with this image on the front of the 6464646, and we conquered galaxies with this image.
Lastly, Paul shows off a picture of a happy man and woman. According to Paul, these are non-threatening people. The Kandou's weapon systems will not target innocent, non-threatening life forms. And so as we can see, this image of Keir Starmer, the current Prime Minister in the 21st century, still has prevalent uses on the battlefield. This usage of psychological warfare on the image module has to be an A-tier, stunning showcase of the 75th century technology. And then we have the weapons that are effective against the Kandoue units. The first of these is the plasma unit, which looks very similar to the 21st technology called a Hoover, or a vacuum cleaner. Now apparently this can successfully eliminate the Kandoue units, but according to Paul it's not very easy to transport.
As you can see, it goes over my shoulder. It goes to a device behind me, which is the equivalent of 18,000 football. The generator behind me to power the plasma unit is about 18,000 football pitches. So it is very cumbersome device. It does go over my shoulder, and we need to develop some sort of harness to, in a conflict, it is very difficult to lose off your shoulder, and then obviously it gets carried away to the generator.
The generator behind him is apparently 18,000 football pitches long. That is a whopping size, something we cannot even imagine in the 21st century. It's also not quite clear whether this is in width, length, or as a volume, but either way, 18,000 football pitches is a large number. Unfortunately, due to its generator size, I'll have to put this at C tier. Despite its incredible uses, this generator seems to be massive and is so difficult to bring to different planets. Unfortunately, there is not an Amazon service in the 75th century. Next we have the command module, or the communication device. This looks very similar to a television remote. Paul demonstrates various functionalities of this, but the part I'm most interested in is the beam selector mode.
Red is the most dangerous, that's the most deadly, and this sort of blue colour is more of a stun beam, but the red is the most deadly beam.
There seems to be 2 options, a blue option for stunning units and a red option. Now this is apparently very strong and can kill most threats, but unfortunately it's still not enough to kill the Kandoue threat, and so I will be putting this command module as an A tier. It's a must-have for most units on the battlefield. Now one of the devices Paul demonstrates is the Kandoue defense weapon. It's somewhat adjacent to the 646464/.B, and in this form we can see that it uses a fuel cell on the top, which mimics the popular lager brand Foster's in its design. The repelling device from earlier is also attached, and apparently this combination will destroy the Kandoue threat.
This is a new developed unit that was developed over 655,000 billion years. We employ this unit all the time. This is great. This destroys thousands, millions of Kandoue units with this unit, with the solar defense, the fuel cells, and the 64646464/.B.
This is incredible news, thank you Paul. And of course, if we're able to defeat this threat, this is an S tier weapon. Lastly, we have what is the magnum opus of the 75th century, This is a prototype weapon that Paul is showcasing here. He has attached the revolver that we saw from earlier, now colloquially known as the XBC-219, with the 646464/.B. The disc makes a recurring theme, but this time it's used as a Trevleock particle collector. Apparently fuel cells are no longer needed, as the collector seems to collect Trevleock from the atmosphere and uses that as fuel.
This is the new improved 646464/.B, and as you can see, it has been heavily modified in order to try and defeat the Kandoue unit. Now when these two units are combined, the 646464/.B and the XBC-219, when these two units are combined, we do believe this will defeat the Kandoue unit.
We've also seen a recurrence of the control unit we saw earlier, and according to Paul, having this on the high setting, red, along with both weapons and the collector in tandem, could be enough to fight the next Kandoue wave. As I said earlier, this has not been tested against them, and so we will have to wait until the next conflict.
Now, whenever there's some in the sector that we get reports of, we will take this device and we will try it out and see if it is useful or not. We do believe it will defeat the Kandoue unit. With these two combined, the firepower of this is immense.
This weapon does look like it has the guts to take out the next Kandoue wave. For now, I will have to put this as an S tier. It seems to combine everything we've learned so far, and I cannot wait to see it destroy the Kandoue threat. And as far as I can see, these are all the attachments that we've seen from Paul's video logs. Our tier list in total is looking rather full. I really do hope that we have what it takes to destroy the Kandoue forces in the 75th century with these weapons. As Paul's journey continues and the video logs keep coming in, we shall see what happens.